welcome to my channel this evening. Hi everyone, this is Gail, and welcome to my Audacious channel this evening. Tell you what, we're going to be talking about service dogs tonight. Many of you know that I travel with my service dog. Service dog Pipsy and I go everywhere together, basically. And so questions keep coming up as far as service dogs. So I wanted to talk about some of those tonight. So let me just double check real quick, make sure it did indeed get shared over in the group. Women's Station Channel is already in. Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great weekend. It has been really great hearing your news about where you are with the whole service dog possibilities there. I hope this will help answer some of your questions. So toss them on in if you have any as we go along here. The service dog live stream, like when I've been going places, from being out to the store to doctor's offices and wherever, and I've been traveling a lot lately. I haven't been home much, but I am home right now. But don't worry, that'll change again next week. That seems to be my pattern. But I'm getting asked things about, like, what is a service dog? What's a therapy dog? What's an emotional support animal? I was also asked, are service dogs only for people who have a disability? Let me pull my mic over here. Hopefully you can hear me better now. And somebody stopped me the other day asking if people who are neurodivergent can get a service dog. And something that keeps coming up is I can just make my dog a service dog by registering it online. And people are asking how to get one. Why is there such a long wait for the service dog? So I'm going to answer your questions. We're going to talk about all of that. And let's see what else. Women's Station Channel says, my first question is, how can you be guaranteed a dog that you purchase or get donated to be trained by another professional? So how can you guarantee that it's going to be trained by a professional? Is that the question? Well, programs, if you do a service dog program, that's what they exist to do. In my case, I went to CARES in Kansas. I checked out the reputation online before I ever went. Didn't find too many reviews about them, but ended up knowing people through YouTube that had gotten their dog from CARES, and they all liked it. They were all pretty happy with it. So that's how I knew that it was reputable. Then when I actually went to the class, I found out that people were actually coming from another country just to get their dog from that same organization. So that's how I had assurance that it was going to be trained and well-trained. And she says, hi, Gail. Oh, I know, I'm excited. I wrote the training program you sent me in Oregon. That might be something for me if I get a hypoallergenic dog, hopefully for free, that it's going to be eligible to be trained. If it's coming from a program, then yes, it should be trained as part of the program. So the programs that I've talked to before choosing CARES and CARES all had breeders that they work with, and some of them breed their own. So that gives you much more assurance of having a dog that meets the parameters that you need for your disabilities, because all service dogs are task trained for specific disabilities. Now, let me back up here. You may have to do some fine training on that tuning once you get home, because your dog is an individual, you're an individual, and so to help bring those skills out, there's going to be a refinement period. I don't care if you get it trained locally, if you train it yourself, if you go through a program. There's going to be that training period that's going to happen at home, because the service dog programs and service dog trainers will train your dog for certain things. But like, for example, okay, they work with scent samples to be able to to detect scents for changes for like diabetes. I'll go ahead and pick on that because that's what my dog does. One of the things that my dog does. Those scent samples are going to be slightly different than your actual scent. So the dog's got to get used to you, your behavior, your mannerisms, and how you are when your blood sugar drops. They've got some of the training, but how does that relate to you? And then you have to figure out what actions your dog is doing when you have those symptoms. So, for example, Hipsy will come up to me, and first thing he'll do is he'll start pawing at my leg. Well, if I don't realize, or he'll paw at my arm, depending on if we're sitting or what the position is. If I don't realize that he's pawing at my leg, and that means, hey, you're having a blood sugar problem, then the next thing he'll do is he'll start licking my hand. And if it still doesn't clue in, like it doesn't sometimes, okay, then he will get in my lap and he will do all of the above. So I had to learn that that's his A, B, and C behavior responding to me and my problems. So you'll get a dog that's trained if you go through a program. It's just that fine tuning, and the program can't do the fine tuning necessarily because they're not home with you. Is that making sense? So you'll have a trained dog, but it'll need some tweaking. Okay. It looks like I have to get a dog from a different place where it would be trained. Then you'll have to work that out with them and see what they will do. If they have referred you to another breeder, there's a bunch of different ways that could go. One is that the program will go ahead and train that dog for you, and you can talk the breeder into donating it, or they can. Another option that I've heard of people doing is buying the dog from the breeder that was suggested and then turning it over to the program for training, simply because that program knew the bloodline and knows what the parents are like. There's a lot that goes into service dogs. So talk to the program and find out what they can do. And then we have Love for Coffee Adventures is in. So hi. Candy the Wee Service Dog is in. Over 50 and Fantabulous is in. You all welcome, welcome, welcome. Please don't forget to give me a like on the video when you get to the point that you like it. So, which hopefully you will. Let's see. Love for Coffee Adventures. Hi, my name is Darlene. I train my own service dog. There we go. We're going to talk about that too. How to detect my low blood sugar and get my medical supply bag when I need it. Good for you. Good for you. Over 50 says, welcome to the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already. Thank you. Thank you. You do have to bond with the dog. Yes. Yes, you do. And Candy brings up an excellent point about the bonding. And that's part of how your dog learns your changes to know when to alert for you. Love for Coffee says, which is Darlene says, in NYS, there is help for service dog owners. So you can apply for the food program through the local DSS and also a tax exempt form for tax exempt purposes. Good deal. I didn't know that. And Candy says you do your research on what breeds are considered hypoallergenic. Very, very important. Women's Station Channel is asking, is it for the better brand of dog food? Love for you. And says, I know the breeds, Candy. It's where to get them affordably and then train somewhere else, because the free program I found so far doesn't have hypoallergenic dogs in my area or eligibility. If it's not in your area, then you may be able to go to them. Like certainly CARES in Kansas was not anywhere near Virginia, so I had to go out to them. Some programs will work on training the dog elsewhere and then coming to you. I don't know about how expensive that is. I just remember reading about that as an option. before I went with Karis and got Pipsy. But that knowledge is a couple of years old. So that's something else to look for programs about and talk to them about. I want to go back and pick up something that Darlene mentioned, and that is that she trained her own dog how to detect low blood sugar and get the medical supply bag if needed. Okay, so the ADA allows for several different routes for you to go. Primarily, it breaks down to owner trained or coming from a program. But owner trained can mean a couple of different things. It means you train your dog from start to finish yourself. It can mean that you train your dog from start to finish with help of trainers, or that you do a combination of maybe boarding with the trainer and then training it yourself. So there's, even when you say owner trained, there is a broad range. I would strongly encourage anyone who has not trained a dog before, get the help of trainers. My first service dog was owner trained. We actually worked with 3 different trainers just because we went with one for toilet training, and then we found this husband and wife team, or maybe I should say they found us, but they trained dogs. So between the 2 of them and then the other, we had some amazing, amazing training. But I was not that well versed in training dogs, and there are a million ways that you can mess up service dog trainings, and I probably would have hit 1,000,001 of those without help from a trainer. So you can watch all kinds of YouTube videos and go into all kinds of groups and forums, but if you've not trained a dog before, then I strongly suggest getting help from a trainer. I'm not saying you have to board with a trainer or anything like that, but just take some classes and get a good understanding of what you need. So let's see. Lori is saying, Women's Station Channel saying, thanks about telling me about being referred to breeders from the professional organizations. Yeah, I understand. Now, I didn't go that route. My organization that I went with, they just trained the dog, so I didn't get referred anywhere. The dog that I have was donated to their program, but I have talked to people who did that. It's just that, unfortunately, I don't remember the names of any of the organizations, but if somebody in here has done that, please reach out to Lori so she will get, that information. Let's see. DSS is the Department of Social Services. Sorry. NYS, New York State. I'm from upstate New York. There you go. Yay. NYS Social Service Law 303-A. And then she says she's not an attorney. Women's Station Channel says it's only $3.49 in Oregon at usserviceanimals.org. Okay. We'll talk about some online registration too in a few minutes. Laurel with Candy the Wee Service Dog says that Candy was her ESA before she became her service dog. She found out that in some states and counties, if you have food stamp EBT card, you can claim your service dog as medical expenses. Yeah, you can. The IRS allows that too. So finally, it's a medical expense. So when you do your taxes, talk to your tax prep person, because it's my understanding, and we're late getting our taxes filed. I'll admit that, but it's my understanding that if your total medical expenses exceed a certain percentage of your income, that they may be tax deductible. But again, that's my understanding. So talk to your tax preparer. Saw in the movie, The Pick Up the Litter, how important it is to get the right dog. It is hugely important. Now, I'm going to toss out a caveat here. I will say that the dog I thought I needed and wanted was not the dog that I got. But the dog that I got, I love it. He is so helpful, and he actually is pretty perfect for me. So, I mean, he's great. But we started out, I said going into this, I don't want a small dog. I don't want a lab, and I don't want a puppy. But what happened was my first dog unexpectedly washed out like the first 2 days of the class. His brain just shut down. He forgot all his training. He just became very friendly, very excited whenever we go to Walmart. With the trainers, he was fine, but with me, he just shut down. So they brought me this other dog, and they're like, we think you're going to like him. And I'm like, no, I don't think I will. I do. So famous last words. But they knew that the stock that the dog had come from, they knew the temperament. They had him for 13 months, so they knew what he was capable of. They'd had him in their line of training since he was like 8 weeks old. So they knew all about the dog. And it's just that I was wanting a different breed. I was wanting a doodle, and wound up with a Labrador Retriever. And let me tell you, this lab is not excitable at all. We can go in. I just went to a conference, 1,000 people there at the conference. The place was packed, absolutely packed to the gills. And then I have this Labrador Retriever in the middle of all of these people. And we rode a shuttle bus for the first time. And he had to help me onto the shuttle bus. We navigated this building. We had some narrow passageways that we walked through because the building was historic. And some of the little, nooks and crannies were not that wide. And the dog did fabulously, much better than I did. And we can go through car washes with him, and he just lays there. I mean, he did nothing bothers him. So I've been surprised. Okay. So if you don't get the exact dog from the program, don't panic, because the exact dog, the breed you want, don't panic, because it can work out really, really well. So yeah, I'm like total egg on my face on that one, because he's just perfect for me. And okay, Love for Coffee Adventures says she got her dog from a good rescue. And we discussed what dog would be a good potential for a service dog for me. Everyone's disability is unique. So is everyone's service dog needs. Absolutely. And the first dog that I had, the Husky mix, he was also a rescue. We looked at a bunch of dogs before getting this one, but I had done a ton of research. I had talked to a lot of people, and I had hoped for a Husky Shepherd mix, and wound up with the Husky mix with Golden Retriever. And fabulous dog, absolutely fabulous. But it's important to know, do your research, know what kind of breed that you need or think you need. Just be prepared to get surprised sometimes. But not every rescue dog, I feel like I need to say, has the temperament to become a service dog. Now, certainly Darlene could probably give you some tips and some pointers on what to look for. Calm personality, number one. You don't want to have a dog that's too excitable, and which is what we got into with the one there. You want to have just a super, super laid back, calm personality if you're going to be taking them lots of different places. So if you're going into a restaurant, you need a dog that is not going to be super excited if a child runs up and starts screeching, dog, I want a pet dog, because it happens. Or you'll have servers at the restaurant that can't keep from coming up and commenting and talking to the dog instead of you. Laurel can fill you in on that one. Also, Darlene is saying, yes, you can use your service dog expenses for expenses along with Social Security and paired related work expenses. Learn more at SSA Red Book. So y'all write that down, SSA Red Book. And Lori from Women's Station Channel says, I learned that there are also other things a trained dog can do for us as blind guide dogs. There are a million things. It's amazing. It truly is. Yeah, I did. I almost got a doodle, Lori. Almost. But like I said, at the last minute, he washed. And I'm really glad that for the dog that I've got. I'm not glad he watched, but I am glad for the dog that I've got. Because he is dead on when it comes to alerting for my blood sugar. Now, I got him for mobility assistance. Okay, I didn't get him for blood sugar. But this program trains all of their dogs in basic skills. And out of the bonding that we're going to talk about, we were able to learn each other. And when he says my blood sugar is low, I grab the meter and check it. And he has always been right. Right at first, there was some hit and miss as we kept learning how to work with each other. But I will say he's as accurate as my meter is. So, and I shared how he did for low blood sugar. Something that I had to realize, he actually responds much differently if my blood sugar is high. And this is something that it took me a while to figure out because I don't have high blood sugars that often. If I go on steroids for the asthma, then yeah, it's a given. And so what happened was I had some problems with my lungs. I went on steroids, and within day 2 of those steroids, he came up and he started tugging at my clothes, tugging at my shirt. And I was like, quit it, go away, down and whatnot. But he would not leave me alone. So I'm like, okay, don't know exactly what's going on, but I went in and I checked my sugar. It was really high for me. It was really, really high. But I had to learn that, which is an individual thing with the dog. And he, knew that I was outside of parameters. And so I actually did a YouTube shorts on it where he's taking me and he's like literally at one point dragging me around the kitchen after I figured out that that's what he does for high blood sugar. So, yeah. Let's see. I have 24 disabilities, disorders, conditions, and Candy does tasks for 12. She's a rehome dog. I got her when she was 13 months. Yeah. And Laurel has been on my other channel, Overcoming the Obstacles, where we've actually done a series of her talking about Candy and her journey there. Hi, Peter Parker. Welcome. Okay, he's saying cats meow better. Yes, they do, but we're not talking about cats. We're talking about doggies. That's another important thing. You must trust your dog to do his and her job. That's true. And the first time that Pipsy alerted for my low blood sugar, I did not trust him. We had been working together, I guess, about 2 months. And I was at my daughter's. There was a whole lot going on and just running in circles that morning. And I didn't eat breakfast. And I figured I would go in there, I would take a shower. We're talking about brand new baby kind of stuff going on, brand new preemie baby going on. Just come home from the hospital. Tons of things going on. And I'm like, okay, let me help her get her stuff taken care of. And then I'll go in, I'll take a shower, and then I'll eat breakfast. Pipsy started letting me know that something was wrong. But I didn't know him well enough to realize that he was really consistent with the blood sugar. So when he started pawing my leg, I'm like, quit it. I went to the shower and I'm starting to get a little sweaty. And then by the time I finish the shower, I am trembling. I'm literally shaking because my blood sugar is really low. And I don't remember now how low it was, but it was a lot lower. And I went into the kitchen. I got myself something to eat and I got myself some juice and stuff. And my daughter looks at me and, she's been around dogs a lot. She's actually got some training experience where she's trained dogs. Spent a semester at vet school before adding up her student loans. But anyway, and she looked at me and she's like, she started helping me at that point. And then she looks at me and she says, Mom, you got to trust your dog. And I'm like, thank you very much, daughter. And so, yeah, it was a learning experience. So after you have your dog for a while and you start realizing some of the behavior, start trusting your dog. And it makes a big difference. Love for coffee. Darlene is saying, calm dog, non-reactive to noises, not hyperprotective towards food, not reactive when touched. Some people like to touch and talk to dogs. Yeah, I'm that person. But those are all very important things to look for when you're looking for a dog. And I don't know, Darlene, if you put your dog through any tests. I took a can and threw some pennies in it and then rattled that soup can to see how the dog would respond. And he came over and he sniffed at it and he was not scared, responded very, very well. Okay, Peter says, my dog does it too when my blood sugar is high and low, and she's never been trained to do that. That's awesome. And then Diane says, I got my dog for my low blood sugar, but he helped alert me to my seizures without even being trained for that. He saved my life, so I didn't have a seizure in a dangerous spot. Good. That, I will say, that even gives me some comfort because I have epilepsy too. And one of the things, like on the list here, when I go on steroids for asthma, if I'm in the hospital and they give me that big dose of steroids, you plan on me having a seizure. Every time it's going to happen. And sometimes it carries over while I'm on steroids at home. It's almost like I don't step down far enough. So he alerts to blood sugar. He hasn't had to alert to a seizure yet, but I'm hoping that because he alerts for blood sugar, that he's got that alert tendency. I'm hoping it'll carry over. So, yay, you just gave me some reassurance on that. So, thank you. A service dog is not always best for someone. If you have a mental disability or difficulties, you need to realize that you will be getting unwanted attention. Yeah, absolutely. And lots of attention. And it's not always that people are just trying to be jerks. A lot of them just genuinely have questions, which is why I'm doing this live stream, because I keep getting some repetitive questions. And it happens. I will tell you, I was in Walmart talking to a woman that I knew, and she stopped me, and Pipsy knows her, okay? And she's like, I just realized what a chaotic environment Walmart is. Because, you go and you just get used to it. I mean, it's Walmart. We just all kind of get numb. But when she saw the dog, it started hitting her. And so she was very complimentary about his calmness, like Darlene talked about, having a very calm dog when you go to look for a puppy. This is why. And I told her, I was standing there, I said, it is distracting, but he's calm. He has to be. He's focused. He has to be. And everything was going great. I was having a really good conversation with her. Then another woman comes up complete stranger. And she's like, oh, I want to pet your dog. And so she starts reaching to pet my dog. And as I'm standing there talking to her, I literally had just said, my biggest problem is when people come up to pet my dog and they can't distract the service dog. Literally at that second, the woman is saying, oh, I want to pet your dog. And so I'm pulling Pipsy away, going, leave it. And she just looked at me like I was talking about her or something. And I just went on and said to my friend, I'm like, when you have this happen, it distracts your service dog. And with me having a mobility harness on him, if he's distracted, I have a huge chance of falling, which is not ideal for anybody, So the woman was put in her place, but I would have had to put her in her place no matter whether I was talking to my friend or not. So you do get a lot of attention, both from people that who my friend knew don't talk to the dog. She was talking to me, but the other woman broke that boundary. So it is a lot of attention. And you do have to think about that. And like Laurel said, with Candy the Wee Service Dog, it is something to think about. There's pros and cons to everything. With me, having a service dog outweighs the cons. Let's see. Candy says, whether you like it or not, you are an ambassador of service dog teams. Sometimes you need to educate businesses on their rights and responsibilities. And she says that's why she has Candy's business cards to pass out. That's really helpful to have a card. Oh, Carlos, no, we're not doing that. Let's see. Can I block you? Goodbye. Okay. Put him in timeout, deleted the messages. Okay. Having something to hand out really does help. I made a little card, which I don't have it in here, for Pipsy, and it's got his paw print on it, and it's got this little information on it saying that as an ADA service dog, he can go with me. Most places people can go, and I just did a direct quote from the law directly on that card and put the Department of Justice hotline number on it, so people could have that to refer to. Also, I have ada.gov on the card where people can go to for more information. But I found that having something that I can hand out and I can say, here you go, a person's natural response when you hand them something is to take it. And that shifts the focus and the conversation. So I can say, I have this card. It's got a paw print on it. And I made it just to help people understand about service dogs. Would love to stand here and talk to you about it, but I've got to go. So take this card. And if you have any questions, the Department of Justice phone number and the website for ADA is on here. Thanks, but I got to run. And Candy, you helped give me that idea. It's been an enormous help. Okay, going back to picking out the dog, Darlene is saying that she used multiple noise reaction techniques. Cans with coins, glass jar, can with a vibrating toy. Service animals aren't meant to be petted. You wouldn't pet someone's wheelchair. Thank you. No, you wouldn't. And yes, you all remember what she just said. You're not going to pet somebody's wheelchair. Don't pet the dog. And the dog, although cute, fuzzy, and a magnet for people, it's still a medical device. And you cannot treat your dog like a pet. So it's totally a different ballgame. And if you're training your own and you talk to a trainer, then you find out a lot about how easy it is to mess up your dog. So do your research if you're going to train it yourself, because it's as simple as a lot of people teach their dogs to sit by saying the word and putting pressure on its backside. Not necessarily a lot of pressure, but just enough pressure that the dog knows to go ahead and sit. Well, for example, if you do that for a dog you're training and you're ever going to have to use that dog for mobility work and you go to put pressure on his back, the dog's going to what? The dog's going to sit because you just trained him to do that when you put pressure on his back. Same thing with food. If you give your dog people food, then from that point on, he knows that that little scrap of bone that's on your plate is going to go to him, which is really cute when you're at home. It's really, really fun. But if you take your dog to that restaurant and he knows that that bone on your plate is going to be for him and your person that you're with and the person at the next table, it's a problem. So you have just ruined your dog from being able to go into a restaurant. So if you combine giving him people food with pushing on his haunches to make him sit, you've just ruined your dog. So do lots of research and talk to people, talk to other trainers, and look online. Thankfully, there's a wealth of resources more online now than there were 15 years ago when I started training my first dog. Let's see. Oh, Candy the Wee Service Dog is saying she had people think Candy was a stuffed animal because she was so quiet and still. Other people didn't believe she's a Chihuahua because she doesn't make noise. And Peter's saying goodnight. Peter, thank you for coming in. It was good to see you. Yeah, I will vouch. I met up with Laurel, and I will vouch that Candy is a very quiet, very well-trained Chihuahua. And any breed of dog can be a service dog. It's the temperament and training. Those are the things you've got to watch for. I mean, the temperament you got to watch for. The quality of training you've got to watch out for too, in the sense of what you're training and what a program might train. Let's see. Lori, Women's Station Channel, says, once the work harness is on, it's work time for them. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that. I think I'd put a dog stating working, a sign on my dog stating working, do not interrupt. That might be helpful. I think it's important to have some kind of marking on your dog. Now, ADA does not require a service dog to be in any kind of special gear or harness. The dog can have a collar and a leash on. Nothing else is required. Okay, that is all. And I want to make this point because a lot of places, I got a call from somebody the other day and she's like, hey, this lady is bringing her dog into the office. I don't think it's a real service dog because it's never in a vest. And she's never seen a vest and she's never seen a harness on the dog. So I was like, go to the ADA website and you will see that that's okay. What the dog wears doesn't make the difference on whether or not it's a service dog. It's the skills in the training. It may wear a harness or a vest, but it's the skills and the training. Now, having said that, if you have a service dog and your service dog is in a vest or a harness, then the dog realizes, hey, I have just put my outfit on for work. This is my work uniform. It is time for me to focus and get on the job. That's why service animals wear vests. Okay, and let's see. Hey, Valerie Reese is in. Hi, Val. How are you? And let's see. Right. Women's Station Channel is saying that with a service dog, she doesn't even have to pay a pet deposit legally. Very true. Also, emotional assistance animals, that designation works for housing. So it's my understanding that you don't have to pay deposits there either. Those two designations. And I also want to toss out that miniature horses can be service animals too. They're good for guiding, pulling wheelchairs, and so forth. Candy's saying the flip side is they're living medical equipment. If someone pets them, they can potentially seek attention to get petted. Very definitely. Very definitely. And there's some really big hazards out there for service dogs when people pet them because they do learn to look for attention. So it takes extra work on our part as handlers to get them back into the working mode. I did a video where I did not intend to get an interaction with Pipsy. He was cute. He was doing his job. So I thought I would get like a little B-roll clip of him just doing his job. So we go into Walmart. I turn my camera on. I start videoing him. And I thought, well, I'm just going to leave this on and just put it in the buggy. And I'll just get little clips as we go along. Well, what happened was there were these two fake service dogs in the buggy who started growling and barking at Pipsy. One of them was trying to get out of the buggy to get Pipsy, and it was bad. They had barked other places in the store, and you could hear them barking. And I had people coming up to me wanting to know why my dog was barking. And I'm like, my dog is not barking. It is these other dogs. But I posted that video edited because it was like 40 minutes inside Walmart. And you can actually see Pipsy lose focus in the video. You can see the early part of the video. He's just right on the mark. He is focused. He is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Then he gets growled at, and I did not respond appropriately. I yelled at the folks, okay, which I didn't even think about it. It was like this automatic thing, so I've got to watch that. But I yelled at the people who had the dogs, and he broke focus. And so you literally see the difference in the video of him just being right on the money versus just looking around everywhere after we ran into the dog. So what happened was I had to go to a quieter section of Walmart. We went to another aisle that was empty, and I put him through some basic steps and gave him some treats, tossed some treats at him when he did things right to get his focus back. Then the next time I went into that Walmart, guess what happened? I'm having to do the same thing about trying to get his focus back. So it can be very detrimental, but keep working with your dog if that happens. But there are hazards out there. Another thing, we went into a restaurant. The server, he came over and he's like, oh, I bet I've got something your dog's going to like. And he puts his hand right in front of my dog's nose, and he's got a handful of chicken. And I am like, Pipsy, leave it. And I'm pulling Pipsy back. And the guy is like, oh, well, it's just chicken. And I'm like, don't distract the service dog. Don't feed the service dog. And then he was like, well, why? It's just chicken. Dogs love it. And finally, I just quit arguing with him. I was like, because it will make him sick. And I don't think anybody in this restaurant wants a sick dog thrown up on your floor. He got it at that point. Let's see. Oh, Love Coffee Adventures. Darlene's saying, I can't stand when people bring, quote, service dogs in the grocery carts at the store. The skills and training is key. I do security, and I have trained others since I had a service dog. He passed away. I'm sorry that your service dog passed away. The bond is much tighter with a service dog than with a pet because they are with you 24/7. So I am so sorry. I'm glad that you're able to train people, though, because it's hugely important. And I will say, I was so glad the other day at Walmart because I got stopped on the way into the store with Pipsy. And the greeter was like, "Hey, is that a service dog required for a disability?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is. Thank you for asking." And he's like, "Okay, make sure you keep it on the leash." And I'm like, "I will. If you see him wandering around, it's a problem. Something's happened to me." He's like, "Okay." So I went to management to say, "Your greeter just made my day." At least 2 different people came up to me at that Walmart after the greeter stopped me, who saw the greeter, and they came up to me saying, "He's not allowed to ask. I'm going to go up and I'm going to talk to the cashier's manager and I'm going to let them know and I'm going to call back and I'm going to tell the store manager that he had no right." I'm like, "Yes, he does. Yes, he does." And I'm glad he asked because, like Darlene said, people who bring their fake service dogs, in quotes there, they're service dogs, in the grocery store carts, or it doesn't have to be in a cart. They'll just be with them. So when you have a dog that's acting out, usually it's one of 2 things. One is either the dog is a fake service dog being passed off as a real one, or it's a service dog that's undertrained and is not ready to be out in public. The other thing is a service dog will bark or whine or appear to be acting out when they're actually alerting for their person and doing their job. With me, if you see me on the floor and I've fallen, Pipsy is going to bark repeatedly until somebody comes. And that's because people may ignore the world that we're in today. People may ignore somebody that's in the floor or having problems, but they're going to come and see what the dog's barking about to try to shut the dog up. So he's trained to do that. So if they're misbehaving, it's one of those 2, the first 2 things. If it's barking and appears to be behaving and they're focused, but if they're barking and they appear at first glance to be misbehaving, watch to see how the dog is doing. Are they focused on their person or are they looking around trying to climb the person? Are they pawing? Are they trying to get help and staying with the person, or are they going somewhere else? That behavior of how that dog is, while the dog might be barking or whining, that other behavior will tell you whether he is alerting or whether he's one of the other 2 categories that I mentioned. People bringing fake service dogs is one of the hazards, and it is a huge problem. Dogs have had to retire early because of being attacked and having negative interactions with fake service dogs. And I was explaining to a woman at Walmart who interrupted me the other day when she was telling me that she's going to go to management and she's going to tell management that the greeter was out of order. I was explaining to her that the greeter was being proactive and trying to keep problems from happening because of the problems with fake service dogs. And I told her, I said, people who have these dogs don't realize that if they go into a place and their dog attacks a service dog, that not only are they in violation of the law for multiple reasons. It's my understanding, this is not illegal. I'm not an attorney, but it's my understanding that there is a violation of several reasons. But legally, civilly, they can be sued and they can be on the hook for potentially a $30,000 service animal. At that point, she says, "Well, I have a service animal that I got for anxiety, and I registered her online, and we have a registration card." Then she says, "I've never had to do any training with her. She just knows what to do." Come to find out, she went on to say that her dog calms her and cuddles her and makes her happy and is very soothing. The dog was never task trained. That dog is not a service dog. And I told her that. And, we even walked through and she admitted that her service dog has been known to watch its food bowl, be reactive there, be reactive to dogs in the store. And then she's like, but it's a smaller dog. I could just pick her up. And I'm like, ma'am, that's not the point. Okay. The point is you could ruin a dog, a service dog, and you caused it. So you could be on the hook potentially. I hope she heard that and internalized it. Sometimes there are times when wearing a vest or harness is not best, as in hot weather, or laying down for long periods of time, especially small dogs like Candy. It's called working your dog naked. Yep, I've heard that. Lori's saying that she wants to make sure her dog knows what he's doing and definitely not interrupted. If you're blind or visually impaired, as I'm expected to be, we can get killed otherwise. Also on Pick of the Litter movie. Yeah, and if you go through a program, the dog's going to be trained for that. Guide Dogs for the Blind, all the training and time and energy they put into their dogs for training specifically for tasks for blind people. Huge. Oh, can you believe that, Gail? Your perfect service dog gets picked? Yes, you do get picked on. I've had people ask me, well, what's your disability? I can't tell that you're disabled. So why do you have this dog with you? With me, with the dog in a mobility harness that I'm standing there holding on to, and my leg brace is right there on my leg. I have to wear it on the outside of my pants because my pants won't go over it. So it's very obvious that I have the leg brace and a dog in a mobility harness, and they're saying, oh, yeah, you don't look disabled. I want to sometimes reach out and touch someone in a non-AT&T way, but yeah, there's all kinds of things that the public does that's a challenge to deal with sometimes, and you've got to know that going into getting a service dog so you can prepare for that. A service dog can check the environment or be trained to block, like stand behind you. Yes, mine does that. Good points, Candy. The wee service dog protection isn't a task, and a leash harness isn't required if it hinders the ability to do the task. Yes. And Pipsy will come up and he will stand a little bit. I can still hold on to him, but he'll stand like a couple of feet away when we're in a crowd to kind of help make space so I can walk better. If we're up shoulder to shoulder and I've got him scrunched up next to me, then I can't really walk effectively. But if he stands out just a little bit, people will make a little more space for us. And so it's easier to walk. And dogs will also do things similar to make space for people who have PTSD, for example. Yes, the dog's trained to do that. So it's service dogs can do huge, major, enormous, monumental tasks, but sometimes you don't realize what all you need your dog trained to do, and that's where it can be helpful to talk to other people who have service dogs, programs like this one, trainers, organizations, because they can help open your eyes. Okay. Like with me, I wasn't planning on getting a diabetic alert dog. I didn't realize how often, though, that my blood sugar is dropping until I got him and had to keep going and checking it. So now that we know how often I'm having lows and I'm not just having like random headaches, we may actually be bumping back down on my medicine just a little bit more. So, yeah. Candy says she gets checked more often than those with large dogs. Candy rides on either my lap or floor next to my scooter. Yes. I do think that small dogs get checked more. But remember, any size or any breed of dog can be a service dog. I'm going to toss out too that a lot of senior citizens like smaller dogs because they're less expensive to maintain. You're not having to buy a 40-pound bag of dog food every month. You're going to be buying a much smaller bag, or Laurel makes her own for Candy, and you're not making that, huge amount. And your medications, you're buying those for smaller dogs than larger dogs, so you're not spending as much money on medications. But smaller dogs also have the advantage of on retrieval. If you drop something and you have a larger dog, then hopefully you're going to drop that item in a larger space, because smaller dogs like Chihuahua can scurry into smaller spaces and they can get something in tighter quarters than larger dogs can. I mean, think about it, y'all. And so that's another reason why senior citizens sometimes like the smaller dogs. I say sometimes because everybody's different. But yeah, easier to handle than two, she says. Okay, that makes sense to me. I've never had a really small dog. The lab retriever that we've got is the smallest one I've had so far. So yeah. A couple of other things too that I wanted to, these are questions that I've been asked, so I really wanted to, hit these. What is a service dog, therapy dog, and emotional support animal, and how are they different? This can be really confusing for a lot of people. What is a service dog? A service dog is a task-trained dog, specifically trained to help someone with their disability. So, in order to get a service dog, you have to have a disability. You have to be disabled in some way in order to have a service dog. You can't just, go to the pound and just randomly pick a puppy and turn it into a service dog. We've talked about that. Darlene gave some fabulous information on temperament and what to look for. So if you're here later and you catch this part, look back into the chat replay and you will see what she said. Some really good, solid info there. So that's a service dog. And the service dog, as we talked about, can be trained either professionally, privately, or by the owner. Now, this is not the same as a therapy dog. A therapy dog are the dogs that you see who have been trained, also very calm, very, very calm dogs, who have had training to go out in public and specifically be petted by people in the public. So they may be on college campuses during finals week. They may be comforting people after a natural disaster, for example, or going in and comforting people, sadly, after some of the tragic events with schools that we've had lately. Nursing homes, hospitals, that kind of thing for therapy dogs. Therapist's office, guidance counselor's office, those situations are going to be your therapy dogs. Emotional support animals are totally different from the other two categories. And also, let me toss out public access tests are hugely important. If you go through a program, your dog's going to take a public access test before graduation. If you work with a trainer or you train yourself, you really should be able to have your animal pass a public access test, and there are sample tests that you can look up online. So your dog has to be very calm and well behaved. So service dogs have to pass the public access test, and therapy dogs from reputable programs have to be able to have that capability also. Emotional support animals are totally different. You have to have a letter from your doctor saying that you need to have that animal, and the animal doesn't have to have the training. You don't have to have the public access test, and they are not task trained. But, hold on just a second. Sorry about that. But they are not task trained, so they cannot go out in public like a service dog can, or like a therapy animal will in those certain situations. The whole thing too, you'll get some of the fake service dogs by people who are intentionally trying to pass off their emotional support animal as a service dog so they can go in restaurants and grocery stores and any other place. But you also have another segment of the population who have emotional support animals, and they have seen these ads online that say, make your dog an emotional support animal and take him anywhere with you. When you see those ads, please report them, because there are some people who honestly don't understand that they cannot take their dog with them like they would a service dog, that they legit don't understand that they're two different things. There may be some states and municipalities that might recognize it. I can't say that it doesn't exist somewhere out there, but I will say that when you go to ada.gov and look at the service dog law, that it specifically states that emotional support animals are not service animals. Also, they get called therapy animals quite a bit, and they're two totally different things. Let's see. Just wanted to share my advocacy work for those of us with different abilities. But if you Google Darlene McCraw and either put Times Union Disability Advocate Disabled Bicyclist or CBS 6 after my name, I'm going to write that down so I can remember it. I'm going to put that down in the description box below. Because we need more people networking and reaching out and supporting each other, as well as educating the public. So I appreciate you sharing that, Darlene. And okay, so I'm going to put that in there. Okay. And I'll go ahead too in the description box and just put your channel down there too. So that way people will have you as a resource. Hugely important that we network and support each other, and that we advocate. And part of the advocating is reporting those ads when we see them. And if it's a Google AdSense ad, oftentimes, I guess I shouldn't say oftentimes, somewhere in that Google AdSense ad is going to be a little triangle button that if you hit that button, it'll say feedback, and you can fill out what the problem is. So on the ESA ads where they are saying, just take it anywhere, make it an ESA, you'll have full access rights. I click on that, report it every time because they are misleading people. Same thing, registered or similar thing, registration for a service dog. The law does not recognize any kind of registration. Do not spend your money getting a registration for your service dog, because it doesn't matter. They are selling you bogus cards, and you have to have the training behind that. You can't just go online and say, oh, I'm going to register my dog as a service dog today, and I can take him anywhere because he's going to be a service dog. That card does not make your dog a service dog. The task that they're trained to do is what makes your dog a service dog. So don't go with the registration. You'll hear people say, well, my dog is a registered service dog. I had that happen at the grocery store the other day. And I'm like, I appreciate you telling me that, but you just wasted your money. Don't do this. And they're like, oh, yeah, mine is with such and such service dog registry. I did it online. It cost me like $99. He's a support animal. And I go, okay, what work or task, service animal? And I said, okay, what work or task has it been trained to do? Well, I got my registration card. And I'm like, that's great. What work or task has it been trained to do? Well, we're getting to that point. Okay. So how old is your dog anyway? This is such a cool conversation, you know. And they're like, oh, 6. I'm like, okay, you need to get with a trainer. If you have not trained your dog to be a service dog and it's 6 years old, you need to talk to a trainer. Yeah, just the way it is. So definitely. Let's see. Candy's saying to have an ESA, you must have a mental disability. You also need a letter from your doctor stating they recommend you need an ESA. Yes. That's how you get an ESA. She had Candy as an ESA and then successfully trained her through people that she knew, giving her advice and suggestions on that training. And Candy is now, and has been for several years, an actual service dog. So she knows how to do it. Let's see. Left for Coffee Adventures says, Women's Station Channel, I paid for my dog at a local rescue. But try a local rescue, or you or anyone here can send me a message on Facebook too. If I say no to first request, just resend a friend message. Are you in our group? Would you like to be in our group? If not, I'm going to type in that. I'm typing in our group link for anybody who would like to join our group. I will say that not all of my videos are on service dogs. A lot of them are on van life, travel, and so forth. But I travel with my service dog. We have been lots of different places already, from like Virginia to New Mexico and so forth. But we will be going to Alaska this summer, just me and my service dog. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things. Let's see. Love for Coffee Adventures says her friend just had a seizure last Saturday crossing something and got hit by a car. I helped him contact our government people so that our local offices can be more accessible to people like him that are deaf. Good for you. Good for you. Let's see. Many people don't even qualify for an ESA. They just want to take them with them anyway. Yes. Love for Coffee Adventures. Yes, please, in the group. Absolutely. Go ahead and hit that Facebook link, and I'll look for your membership to come through and approve it. I also have Stellar Piper, and she may see it before I do, although she's not here tonight. I wonder where she is. If y'all see her online, give her a hard time for me, please. Please. Oh, she's been a service dog for 7.5 years, Candy. Yep. I can't find you, Darlene. Perhaps you can look me up. Okay, thanks. Yeah, you can. If Darlene joins the group, you can certainly catch up with her there. And let's see here. Another question that was asked. Let's see, pull it up. Okay, I just messed up my thing here. Hold on. I accidentally closed it out. Y'all know me. Let's see. Because I put some of the questions that I've been asked a lot over in the Facebook group. Okay, yeah. Are service dogs only for people with a disability? Yes, because that's the definition of a service dog. I had that asked the other day. Oh yeah, one lady stopped me and asked, can people who are neurodivergent get a service dog? Maybe. And that's because I will say first, is the neurodivergence enough to actually be a disability for someone? And please don't hate me on that, But that's one of the things that you have to look at is it actually to the point where it's a disability? So if it is, then yes, you probably can qualify to get help through an assistance animal, through a service dog or a miniature horse. So yes, under certain situations anyway. And then, oh yeah, I can make my dog, a service dog by registering it online, right? No, I already covered that one. How do you get a service dog is one that I get asked a whole lot. And we're kind of over our time a little bit. I try to keep this to an hour. So I'm just flipping through these real quick. I can come back and we can talk about them more in depth next week if you want to. So how to get a service dog. There are several ways that you can go about getting a service dog. And that is what we've talked about before, that it's either owner training, with or without, working with trainers, or a program. Those are really the two ways to go about it. Owner training, you can do rescue dogs like Darlene has and find one that can be worked with that has that temperament that you can rely on to be calm. You can get one if you know a breeder and you know what kind of stock they've got. You can get one that way and have it trained. There is some process, though, to go through. First of all is, do you actually have a disability? Just because you have something, it may be an inconvenience. So let me just kind of clarify what I mean here by that, because that way y'all will understand what I'm talking about. Prior, and I'm picking on myself, okay? Prior to getting a head injury, I had some ADD going on. Now, ADD can be to the point where it's a disability, but I will tell you that my ADD was not to the point where it would be considered a disability. It was a nuisance, I will say that. But as far as being an actual disability, no, because it was more in the nuisance realm. But had it been a lot worse, then it would have crossed the line from being nuisance into a disability. And that difference is whether or not you qualify for a service animal. So you have to be disabled first. And you're going to have to, if you go through a program, and some trainers, this holds true for some trainers that I've talked to, they want to see a doctor's letter or something that says you have a disability, whether it's physical or mental or a combination. Because one of the things about that letter, and I know y'all are going to say, I don't have to give out my personal medical information. I hear you. But when the doctor writes that letter and lists a couple of things that's going on with you, that tells the trainer or service dog program, it gives them more to go on as far as training a dog for your needs. Because, like I said, they may have some ideas of things that you would benefit from that you've never thought about before, especially if you're not used to training a dog. So you'll have to be disabled and you'll have to be able to show it if you go to a program or some trainers. Otherwise, if you're training it yourself, you don't have to have that documentation. So that would be the first step. So you'll have to go from there, whether you go trainer and whatnot, and we can talk about that later. Let's see. Does your Facebook? Oh, Lori, okay. Candy says, I want to expand on what we talked about tonight, Gail, on overcoming the obstacles channel Tuesday. We can definitely do that. Women's Station Channel says, isn't that too old to be trained at 6 years, Gail? It depends on what she needed. Now, with me, I was trying to make the point to her that if she's had the dog for 6 years and she hasn't trained it, it's not a service animal, and she should talk to a trainer. If she talks to a trainer, then they can let her know, based on the temperament and so forth of the dog, whether or not it could be trained. I will say that several years ago, I had a pet that was still learning things at 6 and 8 years of age, but that was a pet, not a service dog. Candy is making the point not only to have a disability, but substantially limits you from activities of daily living. Many people have a disability, but it doesn't prevent you from having public access. That's a good point, too. Good point. Let's see. Oh, another question is, why is the wait so long? Okay. I get this all the time. Let me get another drink here. Because, yes, I've been having some asthma issues, and, yes, my lungs are twitchy. So sorry about that. Let's see. Why is the wait so long? At the time, people freak out over the length of time. And I will admit it's very, very difficult. Like, waiting has never been my strong suit. But if you go through a program, and that's where you're going to get your weights, then when you apply to that program, they start looking for the dog for you right then. What the temperament of the parents are impacts the temperament of the dog that you're going to get. So they will look for suitable parents, and most of them have some kind of breeding program or breeding stock or breeders that they work with. If not, they're going to go out and look for rescue dogs that have the temperament. So step number one, they've got to locate the dog. Then the dog has to grow, and it has to be trained as it grows. Now, if they already have some puppies that are in the process of being trained, it may not be 18 months to 2 years, but don't count on that to happen. So when you apply and you're accepted into a service dog program, then they're going to look for the dog. The dog has to grow, and it has to be trained, and it has to pass certain tests as it goes along to make sure it doesn't wash out, which can happen even last minute, as I told you. So you're going to have a wait period, whether you get one from a program or whether you get one as a puppy and train it yourself, because the dog is not a service animal until it's trained. Okay, so in order for the training to take, the dog's got to grow. You know, you can't take an 8-week-old puppy out and say, this is my service dog, because the puppy's not old enough to absorb the training. So that's why there's a wait. The dog's got to come out of puppyhood into adulthood, or really show that's a very calm animal and can pass all the tests. So that's why there's a wait. And there's going to be a wait for you to have a functional service dog, whether you take it as a puppy or whether you go through a program. The dog's just got to grow. That's just the way it is. And, oh yeah, how much are they? That is a loaded question, because so much goes into the service dog, the type of program you go to, what's available, whether you own or train, whether you work with trainers, whether you go for a program trained dog. There are so many variables. Training the dog yourself is probably the cheapest way to go. It's also got the highest washout rate. So training it yourself, you're looking at the cost of the animal and the cost of the maintenance. Going with a trainer, you're going to have the animal, the maintenance, and the training costs. Going with a program, you're going to have the animal, the maintenance, and the training costs through that program for professionals to start from birth to the time you get them. So even with that, there are various cost differences between the programs. There are like some services for the blind and some veterans groups who will place a dog at no cost to the recipient. Then there are some where every penny of the cost is passed on to the recipient. So it may be $25,000 or $30,000 for the dog. Then there are programs like the one I went through, where the dog was trained through a prison, and that reduces the cost for the program, does a lot of good things, and that's a total other live stream. and they may not charge as much as some others. My dog, for example, our cost sharing on it was $5,000. It has since gone up since then. Right after that, it went up to like $7,500. But I talked to a program more local to my area, and they wanted $16,000. So your cost for your trained for your service dog, there's a huge range, huge range. So my advice on that is to look at your needs and look at your budget and look what you may be able to do with fundraising. I could never have gotten Pipsy without YouTube and without everybody's help. I mean, you really stepped up to the plate beyond what I ever dreamed. Some people donated, some people bought things at the silent auction, at the auction, some people donated things for the auction. Everything people did really helped. I had friends that were running my playlists constantly while they were doing things during the day to try to help me with watch time and the monetization, knowing that I was taking any YouTube earnings that I happened to get and put it toward the dog. I still am, for like medicines and stuff, but it all helped. So look at all of your resources when you look at getting a dog, and yeah, go from there. Excuse me. Asthma does suck. Yes, I have been hospitalized and on breathing machines because of asthma. Not fun. And that's one of the things that Pipsy, oh my gosh, as long as I remember to put it in the right place, I can tell him, inhaler, get inhaler, and he'll go and get it and bring it to me. Or he'll hear me coughing and start getting short of breath a little bit, and he'll go get the inhaler and bring it to me. I just have to remember to put it in the right place all the time. Let's see. Candy says, it also depends on the breed. Candy's lifespan is 18 to 22 years. Usually a dog can work 75% of their life. So Candy can work until she's 15 to 16 years old. Yeah, it also depends on what tasks you need the dog to do. Because there's a big difference in the physical wear and strain on a dog that's retrieving dropped items from, being mobility assistance. If you're pulling a wheelchair, there's just more strain on your body. That's just the way it is. Okay, the ADA requires a dog must be able to perform the task 95% of the time, must be potty trained, have basic commands, and be desensitized to many things that happen in public. Yes. Desensitization is huge. And one of the questions I was asked lately, let me see. The woman that asked is in our group, but she didn't. Okay. Okay, one of the questions I was asked lately is, how do you desensitize a dog to go into public places? And starting number one, make sure you have the right temperament of dog. Number two, when you're starting to desensitize, don't go into the store. Do not do that. Go to the door. Do you know how much traffic? I mean, think about it. Tons of traffic are going in and out that door. So, of the business, like if you go to Walmart or Target or something, then just be outside, just hang out and get them used to going in and out of the door. This lady's fixing to take her dog on buses into bus stops. So go to the bus stop and just kind of hang out there first. Don't be a creeper. Tell the bus driver, hey, I've got a service dog that I'm working with, so I'm going to be here. Don't think I'm like stalking anybody or something. Just tell people so they'll know what you're doing. But go kind of hang out at the bus station and at the bus stops. Let them get used to that noise before you ever get on the bus. Desensitize. If you start doing this and you see that the dog starts to get anxious, leave. Then go back. So maybe the first day you do it for 5 minutes, and the next day is 6, and then 7, and then 8, and you just work your way up. Let's see. Okay, Love for Coffee is Adventures. Darlene's saying, try to maybe join organizations to help you. my local Elks has helped me so much. That is hugely important. Any organization, that's part of your resources. So when I say look at your resources, I don't just mean look at your bank account. Look at who you know that's going to help you. My aunt, before she passed away, she gave me the best piece of advice. When I first said that I was going to get married, she said, go out and get yourself a bunch of girlfriends because you're going to need them. That was her advice to me. I don't know if it was original to her or not, but when I say look at your resources, look at your friends, look at what they can help you with or might help you with, and talk to them and see who you can rely on that might help, because they're part of your resources. Local organizations, that's part of your resources. Your resources are a whole lot more than your bank account. And one thing that this kind of thing has taught me is the value of having friends. And that was actually pretty difficult for me, y'all. I'll just admit it, because usually I'm the one that's like taking food to the food pantry and stuff like that. And so the whole idea that people like you all would be there to help me, especially to the extent that you were, oh my gosh. Because it wasn't just a matter, I can do a live stream on the whole story on this, but so many things fell into place with me getting Pipsy that it literally sometimes causes me to have goosebumps on just everything, and you guys being a huge part of that. But it was also, like finding a free place to stay while we were there for the 10 days. Almost free. We paid $100 for the 10 days. I mean, anyway, that's another stream. Darlene's saying, I got to get up early for work tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone. Please feel free to reach out to me and look me up. I'm going to plan on going to law school. That is awesome. That is awesome. I wish you the best of luck. That's amazing. And Candy is saying, when your dog is ready, take them to dog-friendly businesses. I took Candy to a public bench where many joggers came running by. This helped desensitize her to people running. Huge, huge. And Over 50 and Fantabulous says, still here, sis, multitasking. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Over 50. Lynn's amazing. Love for Coffee Adventure says she also wants to share I'm, quote, stupid, smart, talented, unique person in demand. I love that. Absolutely love that. Smart, talented, unique person in demand. Y'all remember that? That's awesome. Oh my gosh, Gail, the place I told you I wrote U.S. Service Dog says to go to don't. Just don't. You can go to a shelter. If you're used to training a dog, you're going to have more luck with a shelter. But if you're not used to training a dog, I would say don't go to a shelter without learning exactly what to look for. So that when you get to the shelter, you'll have a higher chance of picking out one that's got the right temperament to work through it. Okay. But if it's U.S. Service Dog registry at usservicedogs.org, they do a lot of therapy dogs and a lot of selling of the little cards. And so they're actually moving into trying to be perceived as being a little legitimate. We'll talk. Okay. I would say don't. But that's just me. Yeah. Huge red flags with that company, I'll just say. Let's see. Laurel's going. And Darlene's saying she just wanted to share. She made that up while she was sitting at a doctor's office. That's awesome. And yeah, the U.S. service dogs, yeah, don't. Just, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about them, but they do a lot of emotional support and therapy dogs, and they're really a registry, USA service dogs. And you'll send them a bunch of money, and they'll send you a registration and an ID card, but they won't do the training. They'll send you a card that you don't need and that's not recognized by anybody. And so it's just registration. And you'll go to their website and they'll probably have this breakdown on like what different dogs can do, and who's allowed in the airplane and who's not, who goes to businesses and restaurants and who doesn't, and so on and so forth. And yeah, those organizations, you don't need to go there. Not the best. So anyhow, I want to thank you all. We have blown past our 1 hour point, and we went to an hour and a half. So appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. I hope that you all have a fabulous week. If you have any other questions, then go over to the Facebook group and look for the post that's got this logo on it, same as this one, and drop those questions over there and leave them down in the comment section below. So thank you all for hanging out. Don't forget to give me those likes. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on a couple of videos coming up this week. I'll have a Sunday Shorts up tomorrow, and I'll see you on Saturday night at 7 p.m. I don't know where I'll be yet, if I'm going to be home or not, but I will see you at 7 from wherever I am, 7 Eastern. So y'all take care. Have a good week. Always hashtag be bodacious. Do not let life get in the way of living. Thanks for watching. Good night, everyone.